Hello, my name is Nick Muhammad Haikal, student number 2119096. I'll be presenting on how art and music therapy can aid bereavement in children or adolescents. Now, this is the table of contents. As introduction, as the body of art therapy and music therapy, and we go to conclusion. Now, before we start, what is bereavement? Okay, now the definition of bereavement, it is a condition of that a person feels after a loss of a loved one. Okay, a death of a loved one. The person might be experiencing a myriad of heavy emotions or reactions, from emotional pain and grief to mourning and disenfranchised grief. Now, the reaction towards bereavement or grief or the loss of a someone or of a loved one is very much different from person to person. It is very much not standardized. So it is very personalized for the person. Now, bereavement in children and young people specifically, according to Marie Curie from the Care and Support Through Terminal Illness Organization 2020, the reaction towards bereavement is a little bit different, even within children and young people. So, from 5 to 10-year-old, it's a bit different from adolescents. Now, 5 to 10-year-olds react by way of they easily get irritated or agitated. They anger easily, okay, because they can't really process the emotions they are feeling. They also withdraw from social situations. They don't really go play with their friends anymore, and they pull away from making normal conversations with their peers. And they also try and act brave and control certain aspects of their life. The website of Marie Curie organization also states that children actually understand that their parent or their sibling is going through a very hard time because of the loss of the loved one. So they will act more than they can. So they act braver. They try to control things to seem more mature. As for adolescents, they have problems in expressing how they feel, okay, because of the emotions they are feeling by way of this bereavement or this grief period is very, very complicated. The feelings of intense emotions such as sadness, anger, or guilt. They wish the loss never happened and question how unfair life is towards them. Because at this age, they're very much perceptive towards their peers as well. So they will be comparing the experiences of their peers compared to them and asking themselves why this very hard situation is not happening to everyone but only them. They also have anxiety how they could also possibly die due to the same illness as their loved one. This is specifically towards certain if the loved one was very close in relation to the person, such as a sibling or a parent. Okay. Now, why art or music therapy, and what even is art and music therapy? Now, these two approaches to therapy is under what is called creative therapy. It is a form of therapy that uses non-verbal expression such as art and music. These approaches could be useful in clarifying one's thoughts, emotions, and particularly traumatic experiences that can be hard to explain through words. This is also why creative therapy is often used with children and young people, because some children or young people can't really articulate their words as well as through art or music. Now, first, we will touch on art therapy. a research done by Dye in 2018. Now, the research they identified positive and negative effect schedule for children that the clients themselves had completed before and after the 6 session art therapy intervention. Now, positive and negative effect is the ability for a person to experience positive or negative emotion and also the ability to cope with said emotion. They conducted a semi-structured art therapy session which was developed based on the bereavement goal and intervention documents. The bereavement goals and intervention documents wasn't really explained within the paper itself. So yes, now the main constructs of these sessions were memories, coping skills, changes, regrets, feelings, and telling your story. Now, as for result, that 2018 did found that art therapy had a higher impact towards negative emotion in contrast to positive ones. This does show that art therapy could aid in helping children deal with bereavement. This is due to the fact that again, art therapy as a tool could lower the guard of the children and let them express hard to explain emotion in a more concrete and understandable way. Now we move on to music therapy. A study done by Kaufman et al. 2019. Kaufman et al. 2019 conducted a study to test the effectiveness of music therapy on adolescents aged 11 to 17 that is experiencing bereavement. They used the Resilience Songwriting Program (RSP), which consists of 8 group sessions, 1.5 hours each, conducted by licensed music therapists that involve songwriting and recording. The key points of RSP was it focuses on participants' collaboration and agency during the sessions to inject the feeling of self-esteem and engagement within the person. They are also open to all types of music to enable the full potential of emotional expression within the person. They also apply some cognitive behavioral therapy CBT strategies throughout the session, such as psychoeducation, invalidating the grief, the sadness, the anxiety that they are feeling, that the children are feeling. They also use the strategy of cognitive reframing. They try to reframe the state of mind of these children to not judge themselves and not to be harsh on themselves on the reaction they're feeling as a result of this bereavement. And behavioral strategies such as coping strategies or emotional strategies to make them feel better. Okay. Now, what they discovered. Sadly, there was no statistically significant result found in the realm of self-esteem, coping, and meaning-making. But thematic finding did discover that RSP did increase the possibility of influencing the development of this construct. Now, why did I say possibility? Now, as this study has stated in their paper, music therapy does not directly aid in the topic of bereavement, but it can facilitate those changes by lowering the guard of the children and young people. This may increase the possibility of it happening, i.e., self esteem, coping, and meaning making. Thematic findings also found that RSP was seen as a safe way to express their grief related emotions without being judged or scrutinized. Now, we move on to the limitations of both Dye 2018 and Kaufman et al. 2019 research. Now, as for Dye, the age range of the participants was a bit too wide and not categorized properly. Within their research, they categorize 5-year-olds to 17-year-olds as children. As we know that this age age range is very much different from one another. They land into different developmental stages and might react differently from one another, as stated by the Marie Curie organization above. So, by not categorizing them properly, the results that they show might not be as reliable. Another very large limitation, there is no control group within their experiments. Without the control group, it is very hard to predict the actual treatment effect of the intervention because there's nothing to compare it to. Now we move on to Kaufman et al. 2019. Now the sample was chosen without regard for how long ago the participants experienced the loss of a loved one, a disregard for intervention timing. Now, intervention timing was actually mentioned in both studies from Dye and Kaufman et al. 2019. Intervention timing refers to the timing which the intervention was implemented towards the person, towards the child, or the adolescent. Okay, so the closer the time from the loss of a loved one and the implementation of the intervention, the higher the possibility that the intervention will work. But in Kaufman et al. Study, they did not take precaution towards that. Now, another possible bias is by the researcher. One of the art therapists that was conducting the sessions with the children was also the researcher. Now, this might inject the data with a bit of biasness due to the qualitative aspect of it. The art therapist interviewed the person, the child. Therefore, the data gathered by the researcher might be biased. Now we go on to conclusion.